All right, guys. Episode 90, the big 90. We've made it to 90 deep. First of all, yes, my episodes have been a little bit irregular with their releases over the last few weeks. And if you've been following me on social media, and you know that I'm currently at a location where it's not the easiest to record my podcast as scheduled. However, I'm trying to get you an episode per week still. So this is coming out pretty much now as you're hearing it, but of course I'm recording it the same day. Now, with that said, I'm Pej the Maniac. This is Phumblepodcast. And hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all my socials. And I have a couple appearances coming up in the Sacramento area. If you're here, or if not, you can catch it online. I'll be at Hype Radio with host Defunct the Legend. He's having me appear on that this Friday. And then I have a Thursday Night Thunder show with Swiss the Big Cheese. He's hosting the comedy night, Thursday Night Thunder. And that's coming up on December 8th. And then December 9th is my birthday. So shoot me a birthday message. Let's celebrate 37. I'll be 37 years young. So, all right, enough about me. I have the distinct pleasure. I've met this man on in a class that we were with John Ruby. As you guys may know, he's my acting coach, our acting coach. And he has a class every Sunday that we both participate in, Storytellers Conservatory. And that's where we met and we connected, and he's an interesting person to say the least. Let me give you a little intro on him. First of all, his name is Tonoccus McClain. Tonoccus McClain could be seen hosting television shows like Fox Family's California Summer Countdown, reporting and anchoring Channel 1 News, performing in Beauty and the Beast Live at the Hollywood Bowl, Porgy and Bess with LA Opera, Game of Thrones Live at the LA Forum, multiple shows at the Disneyland Resort, and multiple performances at the Academy Awards. He also traveled North America, touring in over 2,400 performances of The Lion King. Banzai, he wrote, for 6 years. He's crossed the globe singing in countries like South Korea, Taiwan, Spain, Germany, Finland, Mexico, the Czech Republic, Argentina, China, Canada, Australia, and across the Caribbean and back. Tonoccus could most recently be seen featured in LA Opera's Omar at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and performing the role of Action in West Side Story in Helsinki, Finland. A former LA Master Chorale member, he performed at Walt Disney Concert Hall for almost a decade. He could also be heard singing on almost 50 television and film soundtracks and commercials, including the Lion Guard theme song, Glee, The Good Wife, Once Upon a Time, King Kong, Avatar, A Wrinkle in Time, Smallfoot, featured in 2019's reimagined The Lion King, and Lightyear. Just a small sample of...
Oh my God.
Just a small sample.
It was so much. It's too much. It's just ridiculous.
That's funny because I asked him, I was like, hey, send me a short bio. But that's the short version. Imagine the long version. So, but you should be proud, man. That's great. Welcome to Fumble Podcast.
I'm very glad to be here, my friend. Yeah, it's just after a while, you're like, really? He's still talking? You know? And I was in the church choir, and I was in my little second grade play. I mean, it's like everything in there, you know.
I love it. I love it. Dude, no, you're hired, man. You're hired.
Oh, cheers. You got the job now. Calm down.
No,
thanks
cool,
for having me. I really appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Absolutely. Go ahead and plug away your socials.
Okay. All right. So I try to make things as difficult as possible. And so I actually have two socials, things that I use on all the socials. Either it's going to be like on Twitter, it would be my name at Tonoccus McClain, TONOCCUS MCCLAIN, or it'll be by the moniker I've kind of adopted, which is Mr. Hijinks. but spelled in a funny way. Mister, normal, and then Hyjinx. And I'll be on like Instagram or TikTok, or if I'm not at Tonoccus McClain, I'm at Mr. Hijinks online.
Yeah.
So
that's also your podcast, right? Or your YouTube channel?
Yeah. I just I really like the word hijinks. I think that more people, I think it needs to come back into the common vernacular.
What does it mean for people who weren't born here, like myself?
Well, it's kind of like it's a version of mischief, but it could go. I mean, mostly good, but it could also go awry. It really depends. It's like, but mostly good. It's just, it shakes an element that shakes things up,
I see.
the status quo, if you will, but in a mostly humorous and entertaining way.
Thinking outside the box, in other words.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I like that. I'm all about that. And I wasn't that way for most of my life, admittingly.
Really?
Yeah, I was not. I was just really mostly about, live and let live, kind of naive, to put it frankly. I was really just, I kind of didn't really think about the intangibles. I always just took in whatever was coming my way, and if I vibed with it, I went with it. If I didn't, I didn't give it too much critical thinking.
If I can interject,
Yeah.
it sounds like you're describing being a young human being. We're just kind of just doing our own thing until something happens and we realize, whoa, there are other things, there are other people, there are other considerations to take into account. So that you described my experience as well until I had my wake up moment. What was your wake up moment?
Honestly, getting married.
Yeah,
I think marriage woke me up. It was I loved her. I still love her. It's just I was not made for marriage.
How old were you when you got married?
I wasn't even that young. I got married at 29.
Right.
But 29, right? Musician, music teacher. I was performing. But it was right out of college. Like that's what I did. I just started teaching music, and I was already performing from a young kid. And I was able to support our family with that. But what really ended up happening was just like, by the age of 33, I kind of just woke up,
right?
Literally and figuratively. I woke. It's hilarious how this happened, because I've talked about this on previous episodes, but I literally woke up like 8:30 or 9 a.m. And it was just another day. But when I woke up, I was just like, I put away my comedy and my acting for what?
Right.
What did I do that for? I put that away. And then that was the beginning of the changes in my thinking. And then by the age of 35 and a half, we decided to go our separate ways, cordially and amicably, and we're still good friends. Yeah. I wasn't going to have the old school breakup where you battle it out on the field,
like my parents had.
It happens. That's the old school way, right? And I just started to educate myself on things that I thought I knew, right?
By the way, can you hear that?
No.
Oh, great. Then never mind. I live in a flight path, and so when I record things here, and so it's always the best take possible, and then you hear crap. Southwest.
You're good. Yeah, I'm not too far from Sacramento Airport too.
So. Cheers.
Yeah. But so tell me, what about you? When did that transformation happen for you?
I would like to say it was when I moved to Los Angeles. I moved out on my own when I was 17. I graduated high school and came out.
Same.
That's really
that's crazy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you said all this stuff about music, and I was like, really? We haven't talked about that at all.
I know.
What's great is that you and I, we vibe, but I don't really know that much about you. So it's great. There's plenty to talk about.
For reference for the audience, we've only had maybe 2 weeks of interaction through our class with John.
Yeah.
And our last week's assignment was we were partnered up, and then we practice for 5 seconds, and then we're just like, wait, let's just talk. Because
forget the classwork.
Yeah.
Tell me about the world.
Right. But yeah, continue. I want to know about this.
Well, I would say that was a major waking up moment for me. I mean, just going from, being in your parents' house to being your own man, quote unquote man at 17, and like being handed a corporate American Express card when you're like 17 and you haven't really like figured out anything about money, finances whatsoever.
Oh my God.
I just remember going into IKEA and like, I want that. That's when I learned there's a difference between a credit card and a charge card. American Express is a charge card. They expect it to be paid off every month, whereas credit cards, but they didn't explain that to the 17-year-old they were handing the charge card to.
Of course not. Yeah.
So hijinks ensued. So many lessons, but
yeah.
I want to say for me, I think that the moment when I think I really started paying attention to just how people could be manipulated into like nefarious gains would be when George W. Bush got reelected, because it was one thing when, the Supreme Court handed him, the 2000 election, but when he got reelected, the way that one of the ploys that he used, that his campaign used was, so this is like 2004, and gay marriage was not something that was, talked about, acceptable, whatsoever. Will and Grace was on the air, but that was it, So what his campaign did was they floated across the country, we're going to put gay marriage on you can vote on it, because he was losing in the polls. And so that lured out all of the bigots and the gay haters and all that, to come and vote against gay marriage. And while they're there, we might as well vote for George W. Bush too. And so when I was like, wow, so my demographic, I'm gay, by the way, my demographic, we were used to get the man that I hate to get reelected. This is messed up. And so that's when I started like paying attention to politics. And that's when I started like, I don't know, seeing all the ways that we were being used when we don't know what's going on, when we're not paying attention. And I never looked back.
Man. Yeah. I mean, I'm just imagining myself in that same situation. That absolutely. It's almost like, well, I better get my shit together or I'm just going to be left behind.
And also you have a front row seat, and it's only gotten worse as things have gone on. You have a front row seat to people who do not do the work. I personally think it's your civic duty to know what's going on in your government, at least. It would be great if you knew all the major things going on in the world, but at the very least, you need to know what's going on in your own country. And there are people who have no clue, who actively like bury their heads in the sand because I don't know, it's too much, or it's funny. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They'll say, well, what's the point in voting or, being involved, because it doesn't change anything. So then they sit out, and then because they sat out, not enough people voted. And so nothing changes. So but it's interesting though. Lately, it feels like that energy has been changing. I want to say in the last 4 years, the last 3 elections in America, the midterms in 2018 with the first blue wave, and then the election of Joe Biden, and now this past one, which, the Republicans took back the House, but they shouldn't have taken it back by 4 or 5 seats. It should have been 60 seats. The way I look at it, the blue wave is still going strong. Joe Biden's approval ratings are in the toilet, and the inflation's through the roof, and the Democrats still did not lose 1 Senate seat and might have gained 1 and only lost by 5. I think people are engaged now. I think people realize what's possible if you sit it out or if you're asleep at the wheel. So that gives me hope.
Absolutely. I am there with you as far as hope. And it's not just in the States, right? It's worldwide. We're seeing people are finally starting to realize the power that we have. Like the people are starting to say, listen, wait a minute. And one of the biggest tools that we use as a society is the internet. And the internet has put the ball on our court, right? It's like, all right, let's go. You guys want to fuck with us? We can research everything.
Right.
And that's huge because we didn't even know how much power does the internet mixed with our drive for freedom, for true freedom, what it can do, right? And and it's happening as we speak. Like, we're in unprecedented times right now. Like, I feel like obviously Iran, China, Ukraine, even Russia, the people, it's a wool
at
that
the same time. It's crazy that all this is happening at the same time.
My friend said this is shaping up to be World War III. And wow. I mean, hopefully not, but it's
wouldn't it be great if instead of going into the war side, went into the peace side? We all came together.
Yeah. We've made this mistake twice already. Like,
yeah,
we should
learn.
The
problem is now there are nukes in the mix, and so hopefully, yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing, right? It's there are all these weapons of mass destruction, right? There's all of them. Like, all these corrupt governments have factories working on this stuff, right? Nuclear plants. The Islamic Republic is one of them. By the way, I was looking at your shirt.
This is one of my favorite shirts ever.
I love that. Yeah. So it's losers of 1865
with the Confederate flag.
Right. And then
I'll stand up.
Yeah. All right. Yep. Nazi Germany, and then Trump. Yeah.
The bottom of 2020.
I got one more for you to add on the bottom of that.
Yeah.
It would be the Islamic Republic flag.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So why not just 1, 2, 3, 4? I've got friends who are like, if you wear that shirt in some places, you will be disappeared. And I'm like, I know. I have this tank top version, and I've got the regular one. This is the first time I've actually worn the tank top one.
That's good.
And I wore the regular one like to the grocery store in Los Angeles and in Hawaii, which is like ultra liberal, and people were coming. I was in the airport and strangers were running up. Great shirt. Like, yeah, America. I wouldn't wear this in Texas or,
Yeah, you I want to see you again, man.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's crazy because all of those, right? Like, just the years alone of like 1865 to 2020,
right?
And this mentality of control still exists, right? This mentality of making money from fear, right? I mean, that's what it's about. Right?
That's really the only way that these people can. They don't have any ideas. They're not even really interested in governing. They just want power, and the easiest way, if you have nothing, is to scare everybody.
Yeah. And the fear that they created, right? And I'm speaking from a foreign land that came here at a young age of 8 years old, right? I moved here from Iran at 8. And I was, like I said, I was naive. I didn't know. Like, Iran wasn't even bad to me as a kid, right? Like, it was just like, okay. Like, I knew, like, I hear, like, through the grapevine, like, what's happening as a kid. Like, oh, my dad's store closed. They closed it. Oh, okay. So we have to go to America now. Like, that's how naive I was, right? It was just like,
right. Just going with the flow.
And I knew enough I knew that because my parents were a minority religion over there, and which is not even recognized. They're not even recognized as people. So yeah.
Wow.
So the Baha'i religion is in Iran.
How do you not recognize human beings as people?
How did the Nazis not do it for the Jews?
No,
it was
I mean, I mean, you're right.
Yeah,
I just don't.
The logic.
I'm glad I don't understand.
We shouldn't unless it's you care more about the green than the red, right? Which is the blood of people. So, and that's the corruption. That's the corruption. So anyway, what coming here, and then speaking of waking up, now I see like the people that are getting killed, the Masa Amini, I'm sure, I mean, you're wearing that and I'm wearing, this is a logo now that's become popular online and awesome. Throughout this revolution, it spells out Zan Zendegi Azadi, which translates to woman, life, freedom. And
love it.
Yeah. And so that's what they're fighting against right now. This
all from it started because that woman was killed in custody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing.
And, over 2 months ago. Yes. Masa Amini was killed, and there was caught on video That video was then again, the internet is saving Iran right now, and Ukraine, and you know, all these countries that are trying to hide all this
accountability, you know.
100%.
And the problem is, you know, everyone has a camera in their pocket now, so it's.
And for the audience
for the
audience who are listening, I posted since we're on this topic, real quick, I posted about why Iranians were cheering the game yesterday, the results of the match between US and Iran, because US obviously won 1-0, and there was fireworks in Iran. In Iran itself, videos came out. People are dancing in the street, and a lot of the Westerners and non-Iranians were confused by that. Like, why? And I broke that down in a video in a reel that I posted on my Instagram page, Pej the Maniac. So you guys can check that out. But it's because the government used that entire team as a political ploy to create the illusion that Iran is normal. And when Iran beat Wales in the second match they had, all the security people who were shooting children right before yes. Now this is all like mind blowing to people in I'm not even going to say fully free countries, but more free countries or democratic countries, right? It's they've killed Mahsa Amini and they've killed over 450 more since, to prove that they didn't kill Mahsa Amini. That's their mentality, right? The government.
Okay.
So bottom line is, I'm going all over the place. Bottom line is they coerced the team, the players, and they used their head coach as a pawn to control the team's behavior in Qatar for the World Cup. And then Qatar was also in bed with Khamenei, who's the terrorist leader of this government. And they sent over 10,000 people from the Islamic Republic representatives. They sent them over to Qatar to monitor the Iranian fans of the game, of the match. And anyone who is wearing something like this, or it's about freedom, there's videos. Again, one of them was my friend and his father wearing a Woman Life Freedom t-shirt. I know this guy. He lives in Fresno. And they were surrounding his father and they were putting fingers in his face. Take that shirt off, cover it up. In Qatar, it's not even in Iran, right? So it shows you how corrupt Qatar is to do this. It's supposed to be a unifying moment in the World Cup. It was anything but that. They get the reward for worst host ever for a World Cup country. Absolutely. And the overarching issue is FIFA. FIFA has not done anything. They've been sitting on their hands.
Because they don't want to, they want to be Switzerland or something. They don't want to piss off anybody or pretend like nothing's happening.
I can't prove this, but for sure they're getting paid a lot of blood money to keep their mouth shut.
I mean, it's all about the money, and in the end, if someone is acting in a bizarre way, follow the money. That explains it.
That's right.
That explains it.
Yeah, man. Greed it's really about greed and greed for power. Money is a tool, just like they used the Iran soccer team as a tool.
I'm just can we go back to that? I'm thinking, I mean, I'm not really into sports, you know,
for sure.
But it just seems so strange to me that you would use, like, the World Cup is a moment when you should be focusing on the athletics and, you know, everything that you've been training to get there at that point. So when you say they were using the team politically as pawns, what does that mean? Like, were they, I mean, how does that translate to you playing soccer, but then you're a pawn of your government?
Right. So I'll tell you, the main purpose of this government, we've already discussed, is to have domination over the Middle East and eventually the world. They have no concern about the people of Iran because they're not for the people. They've never been about the people. They've been about taking control of the government under the disguise of Islam, which is not even about it because there's so many Muslims in Iran right now in the streets, part of the revolution. So it doesn't represent Islam and humanity. It doesn't even and I'm not Muslim, by the way, as I mentioned, but I'm not a religious person for this reason. I'm more spiritual. I consider myself a spiritual person. When I woke up.
Right. Cheers. Your spiritual awakening.
Right. I started looking at other books instead of just tunnel vision. So
right. We have similar stories there as well, which
and I'd love to hear yours. Yeah. But so anyway, so now fast forward 43 years of this dictatorship, right? From the brainwashing from 1968 to 78, from the original leader Khomeini, who died in 88, I believe. He brainwashed the people from France. He was smuggling tapes in, getting all these people who were uneducated. Who did that recently?
Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. It's the same game. It's the same game. What's funny is they tell each other, the governments brainwash, they try to brainwash the people to hate the other country. Right.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
They do that, but the hilarious part is A, it failed, and then B, they use the same exact tactic to come to power. So it's like, you know what I mean? But the United States smartened up and they corrected for their mistake to a degree. Right. On the second term, I'm saying.
Right. It's arguable. I'm not even first term too, but I won't even enough to talk about. But anyway,
but I have a hair of empathy for people on the first term if they voted for Trump. I was like, okay, you didn't know what he was about to do. Right. The second
time around, no.
It's like now you're absolutely just
not. Right. I have a friend. He's a complicated guy. And he actually is the only person I've talked to. Of course, there must be people out there who are also like this, but he's the only person I've talked to who said that he didn't vote for Trump the first time, but he voted for him the second time.
Oh, wow.
I was like, what? And his reason was he's a single issue voter. And he wouldn't tell me what the issue was, but we all know what the issue always is. If that's the reason why you vote Republican.
Yeah.
Well,
it's I feel to button up this whole quick history in 90 seconds of from 40
nothing else happened whatsoever.
No, so from the brainwashing that was systematically put into place in from 1968 to 78, the former king of Iran was trying to, he had put into effect what was called the White Revolution. What that meant was there was a lot of farms, and it was basically like the farmlands in California. That's all it was. And it was a bunch of people who were not educated. He was trying to change that. He was modernizing Iran, right? And he did. He really put Iran on the map. But what Khomeini did from France, because he had exiled Khomeini out of Iran, he started to put in this narrative that he had already said, America's behind the king, and that's the reason you guys are not getting what you deserve. People started buying this shit, right? And then what did he do? He said he's not modernizing Iran, he's westernizing Iran.
Oh, right.
So I hate to say it, but he was a mad
clever
genius.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was clever, but he used it for all the wrong reasons. So now he's got enough people like Trump got. And then they stormed the streets in 79 and they overthrew the Shah, and the Shah went out and he rests in peace. He laid to rest in Egypt. And so now 43 years later, people are like, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And it's because people have time to educate themselves. And that was the only mistake I would say the king made, is he didn't wait. He didn't wait for people to become enough
rise
educated
to his level of Right.
Yeah, because their logic wasn't there. It was a lot of emotional decisions, right? And it was just and when you all is farming, and then it's like, oh, okay, now there's buildings everywhere, and then now it's like it's like everything is industrialized, everything is westernized, as Khomeini called it, which is just no, we were just trying to keep up, and the king said
with the times. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. It's almost like I'm on your podcast. I'm talking a lot. But,
I do talk a lot, don't I?
No, me. I'm saying I'm talking a lot. So anyway, yeah. So we're crediting this revolution right now to the women, because it's the first ever woman-led revolution. woman-led uprising, followed by closely by Gen Z. The Gen Z, they have pure hearts. They're not jaded. They're educated. They know the history of America and Iran and all other, they've learned. And they're saying, I'm just going to approach this with love, and basic human rights is all I'm asking for. You want to kill me?
Are they as not controlled but influenced by religion?
Not anymore.
The Gen Zs?
Not anymore, man. That's what's happening. And I tweeted this the other day. It's no longer an unpopular topic that humanity has evolved past religion.
I just heard a couple days ago, maybe yesterday, that for the first time ever, less than 50% of the English are they say they're Christian for the first time ever. Wow. Less than 50%.
Yeah. But where is that coming from, right? It's the younger crowd. It's the younger people. It's the
and I think we used to, as a society, I feel like we used to just do what we were told because it's always been that way, without thinking about it, without examining it, without checking inside to see, well, how do I really feel about this? Do I agree with this? Yeah. And now we're taking a moment saying, for me, my parents, I'm a preacher's kid, so I front row seat to my parents. We had our first church was in our garage when I was 15 years old in Colorado Springs, and these metal chairs, folding chairs in the freezing cold. So you stood up and clapped because you didn't want to sit down because your butt freezes on the chair. So I had a front row seat to I'm just going to say it, the hypocrisy of a lot of that lifestyle, and seeing how, because people weren't being honest with themselves and with each other, not communicating, not looking inside, it really crumbled. You can only go so long. And so I think a lot of people are like me. They're seeing the older generation make all these mistakes, where if they just communicated, or if they'd just been honest and open, then they could have been avoided. I think that's a big part of what's going on.
And I think it's okay to look in the past and see where we messed up as a society, and then be like, okay, now what do we fix going forward? And that's what's happening, right? It's like we've made that mistake of organized religion enough times to realize. And by the way, audience members who are religious that are listening to this, I'm not hating on religion.
No hate on if it's your path, then I'm all for it and I support you.
Exactly. My only thing about religion is when it becomes an advertisement to bring people in, that's when it becomes a potential issue of divisiveness, because it's causing people to think inside of a box again. Right. And it's been happening for centuries. So it's not like, and I think we're just at a point where we're like, do we really, is religion really, this rendition of religion, is that really necessary for us to be good people?
I think it's so interesting when you think about Joe Biden, and he's Catholic, and he's down with the Pope. The Pope loves Joe Biden, and Joe Biden loves the Pope, and they're like fist bumping and all this stuff whenever they see each other. And
the old heads.
Right. But then he comes back to America, and the bishops in American Catholicism, they are upset with the fact that Joe Biden is pro-choice, and so they're trying to deny him, communion. And I'm like, isn't the Pope your boss? And the Pope is cool with them, but you're having a problem with what's going on here?
Yeah. That's profound what you just said. Isn't the Pope your boss? So you think Pope has a lot of influence in America?
Absolutely. The Pope is supposed to be the president of Catholicism. Right, I'm not Catholic, but I've spent a lot of time in Catholic churches doing music and stuff over the years. And so I've had a front row seat, and it's really like, he's the dude. They talk about him every service. Right. And so is he or isn't he? And why are it's almost like you're letting politics get in the way of religion, So are you guys starting your own thing over here? Does the Pope know that you're doing your own thing? It's just where does it stop?
I think it stops when it's stopping actually right now. A lot of the people in office in most of these governments are over the age of 60, right? And that is part of it. We're not simplifying it enough. We have to understand, I'm not going to relate to a 70-year-old. Right. And neither will he or she.
They're not
me.
worried about climate change the way that we are, because we'll
have to deal with it. They're gonna be gone.
Right, exactly. So, things are warming up. That's really bad. Yeah.
yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's because they got comfortable living in that one way, whether right or wrong, and then it's hard for a 70-year-old to change their thinking all of a sudden, right? It takes a lot. It takes a lot for them to like see how obvious it is. I have these same debates with my father, my own father, in this house. I talk to him. I'm like, because like anything that's happening in Iran or China or where, he's like, our prophet predicted this over 100 years ago. I'm like, I'm just like, Dad, I know. I love you, man. I love you so much. You're not looking at it for now. You're hand wrapping it and gift wrapping it and giving it a title.
Right.
It doesn't need a title.
He's looking at it through a prism of something that's like of the past, as opposed to,
And again, if he wants that, it ties into religion having to be a private thing. It should not be. Religion should always be private. Your religion, my religion, whatever it is, anybody's religion, it doesn't matter because we're all humans. Right. And that's the priority. And that's where society is leaning towards now. It's like, well, all these religions have failed because they've corrupted all these governments, or vice versa. Right. And it's like, so what now? We're all depressed as a society. Right. Nobody's happy.
We have to check in. I mean, the thing is, I think I've got so many theories. But people, a lot of people, they just don't want to have to put forth the effort of doing the work and asking themselves the hard questions, giving themselves a hard look in the mirror and just saying, okay, that worked, that didn't work, that really didn't work. So how can I grow? How can I learn? What can I fix to do better next time? That is just, people are tired. They're lazy. Americans, they just want to watch TV. They've got 3 jobs, so they don't have all the extra energy to do all this work, and they just want to. So just tell me what to do. Tell me. I kneel down here, and then I eat this at this point, and I say these words at this moment, and I'll go to heaven. Great. That's all I have to think about. And then they turn around and they realize they've been by just going along with it, and then going along with a little more and a little more. They've been controlled by something that doesn't even resemble who they really are for who knows how long. And then you see how far that can take things. It's really bottom line. We just have to do the work,
Exactly. I think one of the human fallacies is wanting to be comfortable, right?
Right.
And wanting to be comfortable means sometimes you're lazy, and sometimes I'm just calling it how it is. Sometimes we're and if anyone wants to argue that, we can come on the podcast. Let's talk about it. Like it's the point is dialogue. These dialogues, higher thinking about, okay, we've seen this movie a million times. Right. It has the same ending.
Right.
How do we change the story a little bit, right?
Yeah, they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. You've got to do something. We know how this ends. We don't know how this ends. Exactly. Whenever I'm faced by, a major decision, I find myself at that crossroads. It's like, so you can do what everyone else and what you've done your entire life, and then you see where that ends.
I think we leaned on a higher being or a higher status, right? Whether it's a prophet, whether it's a leader, whatever we want to call it, for answers, right? But we're starting to realize, wait a minute, I can do all that myself.
Right. And also many of those prophets turned out to be unworthy, Yeah. Whoops. Oh, what are you doing, Father?
Me personally, I believe there is a higher power. I just don't think it's the way it's been taught, right? It's not. I don't think anyone knows. Well, how could we know?
Right,
we don't know, right? But we pretend we know just so that we can be comfortable. Right. Because in my world, this makes sense, and I'm not going to worry about that world and that world, but this is fine, and that's becoming a thing, because guess what? Borders are also not real. So
it's so strange. They're being reinforced and they're dissolving at the same time. Like the reason why we're not helping Ukraine is because of borders. The reason why NATO because of it's like this invisible rule line. If a missile lands right here, this stretch of grass, then it's okay. But a few feet further, then it's World War III. It's all these man-made I don't know.
Hey, listen, you just said it, man-made. And I think it's, and speaking of theories and predictions, my prediction is, and we've already seen it play out in a positive manner, we need women leaders. We need leaders that are women. Men fucked it up long enough.
There was a meme going around during the height of the pandemic. It showed all of the countries that had the lowest death rates and were, handling things, and all the countries that were not handling it well. And there was one thing you noticed: all the countries that were doing it right had female leaders, and all the countries that were just blowing it had male leaders. Just right in front of you.
We need a little less testosterone in the office. Yeah. In the office.
Just calm down, everybody. Calm down.
It's not always about fighting others, right? That's not the solution.
Well, I mean, you talk to someone like Kanye West, and that's how he gets his jollies is by
perfect segue.
Thank you. It's like I honestly believe that there are some mental health issues involved.
Of course.
And so saying that, setting it aside, I think it's also like, do you have a friend that no matter what you say, no, it's the exact opposite, no matter what, to a fault. If you don't, you're very fortunate. I've got a friend like that, a friend, quote unquote, and he's just drive me crazy until I realize, wait a minute, I'm going to test this out. Every single thing I say, this dude always says the opposite, just because that's how he engages the world, is to be a contrarian.
Yes.
And so once I realized, oh, that's your shtick. Okay, all right. So then I started calling, oh, Philip, my contrarian friend, how are you today? And just shuts it down.
But listen, that. I have an uncle just like that. So it's there, man.
Right.
There.
And he's found a way to manipulate it or exploit it for celebrity and for attention. And
does he even know it? Is he doing it consciously or unconsciously?
Oh, I think he's doing it. See, okay, so
or subconsciously.
In the beginning, when it was just mental health, it was like, okay, he might not understand that pushing these buttons, but after a while, you have to take a step back and you look at all the things. He's actively wearing a White Lives Matters t-shirt. He's actively looking for Candace Owen, who's the other firebrand, like in the black circles, because she rose to power when George Floyd was being killed, and she was parroting what all of the racist people who are supporting the cops were saying. We're not racist. We have this black girl to say the things that we've been saying to each other. So we're not racist, just being used and doesn't care because now she's a celebrity, sort of thing. So okay, he's seeking out this person and he's making a documentary with that person. It's like when you start looking at all it's too incendiary and too effectively just enraging for it to be, oh, he's got mental health issues, he didn't know. And this final thing, I don't know if you heard, but last week Yi, I guess his name is Ye, whatever, Yay.
Nice. Jinx. Hi, Jinx.
Oh, get out of my head, there are enough people here already. But last week Ye brought Nick Fuentes to have dinner with former President Trump. And so
who's Nick Fuentes? I'm ignorant about Nick Fuentes.
He is he's quite the incendiary character. That's the word of the day. He was at Charleston or Charlottesville, that bloodbath. Well, one person died, but I mean, it was horrible. He's a white supremacist. He's a Nazi sympathizer. He hates gay people. Women. It just goes down the list. He got banned from, I think, CPAC because he was saying how he was saying, all the people are saying that Putin and Hitler are the same, as if that's a bad thing. Things like that.
Oh, right.
So he's an up and comer in that kind of world, and everything that he represents is pretty anti-American. Like he was at the January 6th. He was a speaker, maybe January 5th, not on the 6th, I believe.
Right.
But he's involved. He totally is an election denier. And so for Kanye West, okay. Oh, he's got mental health issues, so he just doesn't know any better. To find him, who is the cheerleader in like anti everything that is the Constitution, anti everything that's American, everything that's democracy, of inclusion, diversity. For Kanye to bring that man to the Republican candidate for president for the next election, it's not a mistake, right? And it's not something that you can just, we need to call it for what it is. I mean, this guy, for whatever reason, he's got it. I mean, he's just on an anti-American bend. And I actually think that people need to stop giving him his mental illness credit. Yes, he has mental illness, but that only goes so far.
Yeah.
He's very strategically doing things that will undermine, I don't know, the underpinnings of American society in the direction that we've been going for the last, handful of years.
Man.
It's really.
I agree with you. I agree with you with the notion that the mental health should not be used as a reason to allow him or anyone to continue to build a game plan for hate and division. To me, mental health and religion are something to empathize until it's causing harm to even one person.
Right.
If it even causes harm, and I'm not talking about physical, even mental harm or emotional harm, whatever amount of harm, if it's causing that's not a pure state to be in anymore.
Right.
I always do this. I always think about this. Like, what would the child version of Pej, how would that person react to this to this fork on the road
Mm-hmm.
Like, and 100% of the time he chooses the pure road, right? The side that's fueled with love and humanity.
Right.
There's no racism in it. There's no hate in it. There's none of that, because
if you think about it, kids, like when they're 4, 5, maybe not 5, it's already started at 5, but I mean, they don't think that way. They just think, this is my friend, let's go play. And we are taught to start looking at each other differently.
Yep.
Okay, his skin is different than mine. It would have never occurred to a child. Someone had to be like, look at his skin. Oh yeah, it is different. Yeah, and you're supposed to act this way when someone has that kind of skin. It's taught. And
that's why I do have hope for a better future and a better tomorrow, because those young people are the ones that are right now, their purity and thinking mixed with the power of the internet and the power of information. It's taking away the fake fear cloud,
right?
And it's saying, wait a minute, no, those guys are cool too.
Yeah,
everybody's cool. Like we have Iranian people in Iran. They're pen pals with people in Washington D.C., in Los Angeles, all throughout the Europe, and it's just like all of this bullshit that these religions and governments tried to drill into their heads, and not just them, all over the world. It's becoming laughable. It's like, wait a minute.
I feel like when enough time passes, like the first example that comes to mind is the Republicans in the 80s were talking about the trickle down economics thing, and that was so just cut taxes for the rich and make sure and forget about the lower and middle classes, but for the ultra wealthy, just make it so that they don't have to pay any taxes whatsoever, and their money will just trickle down to the middle and lower. Someone said the only thing that trickled down in trickle economics was their urine as they were peeing for the poor. But we always just went along with it. Oh yeah, these guys are really smart. I mean, they keep saying it on TV, so it must be true. They must have, tested these theories and gone to all these economists and figured, no, they're just greedy and they want a way to not have to pay taxes and create an economic system around it. So, but enough time went by. We had enough evidence. Like, actually, no, if you look at it, that actually was horrible for society. Whereas when you build an economy from the bottom up, everybody wins. You won't get as much money as if you don't pay any taxes at all, but you didn't destroy America in the process, filling up your bank account. So I think that with enough time, we can look at the evidence. And I think the same thing is happening now. It's like the religions have always said this is a certain way. And yet it doesn't feel right. We're piercing through that cloud of bullshit.
Yeah.
And, I think the internet is bringing us together. It was one thing when you were alone in your room and you thought you were the only person having these thoughts, but it's another to have an active community online. You thought you guys just came together over cat memes, but no, you actually believe in peace, love, and freedom.
and that is the fuel, and information is power. And the people are taking that information back, and they're taking the power back, and it's a power fueled by, just like you said, love, peace, and unity, and freedom, just basic human rights. We all, like, everyone deserves that, borders or not. That's all taught. All of that is taught, and we're no longer relying on someone to teach us. We're starting to rely on ourselves, and I think as a result of that, the biggest thing that's happening is the mental health has become a priority in the world.
It's great,
because it hasn't been for decades.
I mean, it's still, tricky.
Yeah, it's still tricky. Yeah,
in the Black culture and society, like I recently had some profound family revelations come through genealogy. It's an entirely different podcast. I won't bring up the details, but I mean, like, who I am and where I thought I came from, totally wrong. Like in the last few months. And so I'm like, I went to a black male friend, and I said, so I think I'm gonna get some therapy to work through this, make sure that I keep my head on straight. And he was talking me out of it. I was like, is this really happening right now? And he would say things like, we survived slavery, so we can survive anything. I'm like, first of all, you weren't a slave, so what are you doing? We survived slavery. But what a weird mindset. I was really upset about that. And this happened like a few months ago, so there's still a long way to go. It's better, but there's still work to be done.
There is the easy way to do things, and then there's the right way to do things, and the right way is always the one that takes courage and discipline. But the reward at the end of it is so worth it, man.
Right.
And that's something I started doing at 33. I started doing things the right way. And I didn't just sit and just let the world pass me by. I was like, no, I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to actually, and that's just one story, and it's whatever. But yeah, mental health has been ignored in a lot of communities, not just the Black community, and in the Iranian community, as a result of this repression by this government. My parents had both sides of this, right? They were on the free side previously to 79, and then they lived for 25 more years under this repressive regime, which led to them having to leave and flee and come here. And it's like they weren't taught about, again, systematically, maybe, I'm not sure, but systematically, mental health was not talked about. But mental health as a science has been around since the early 1900s, maybe.
I mean, I don't think that the people making the choices, the governing decisions, even realized or thought it was valid,
Yeah.
So how could they teach other people something they didn't even understand?
Yeah.
It's definitely a new thing.
Because the minute mental health is the priority, all of these other things start to wash away, right? You start to realize, wait a minute, I can love people without having to have a book.
Right.
Right? I don't have to have this book to love you. I can just love you.
Right? Exactly. And the ways that you're supposed to love quote unquote supposed. Yeah. What does that even
Again,
mean?
the inner child in ourselves is actually something to always remember, because we forget that sometimes
Yeah.
through pain, through being jaded, through things that are taught.
Right.
And it's just like, I feel like, no, don't lose that.
I feel like and I know that it's going longer than we were
I know, I'm
expecting.
sorry, man.
No, I mean, I'm totally fine. But I just recently discovered, and this is huge, but talking about the way the book says you're supposed to love and all that stuff, it goes into, for me, homosexuality. And I just learned that the term homosexual was actually inserted into the Bible in the year 1943. This is like, you can Google this stuff up. There's a documentary coming out about it. But all other versions of the Bible, they took two words. One was like effeminate something, I guess, and then the other word was like an economic tyrant, or an economic, like someone who like swindles the government for money. And they took those two terms and they decided that's going to be homosexual. And so then from that moment on, that became. And so from 1943, think about even Sodom and Gomorrah. I read all these articles about how it breaks down, what they were really talking about here, and how we just twisted it. And so that how many people have died since 1943 because of that decision, and, killed themselves because the book says this when it wasn't in the original text. It's just an interpret in the translation. Yeah. Someone made that decision. So again, it's another example of how a book and a person could tell you you're supposed to love a certain way, when in reality it's just man-made.
Well, the fact that Jesus's Bible was updated in 1943, just think about that. Just think about that, right? Like, because if it's holy words, then
right.
Who wrote that? Who's the holy one?
In college, I learned that Judas had a bunch of them had their own books, and there was a council, and they had to vote which books were actually going to go in the Bible. So, and like, what were rejected? Which books? What could the Bible have? Anyway, can you imagine the book of Judas?
Oh my gosh! The bottom line is, ask questions.
Yeah,
ask questions. Be curious. That curiosity is what's gotten us to this point, and the opportunity to actually live with love and peace, and not have this hate and this narrative that's been taught. It's all because of systematic repression and tactics to keep us from using our minds, and so I'm very hopeful that I can see this come to life before I'm gone. Like I'm like Iran's next World Cup, for sure they're going to be a free country by then, and they're and I'm so excited about that. Like, that's the team that the people are going to be cheering for, not this one, right? This one was all just a tool, as we discussed. So you guys can read Tonoccus's blog on whose side is yay on. I'll post that link in the description. What's funny is that was supposed to be the main topic of discussion, but obviously
stop being so interesting, man.
There's a lot of hot topics that are happening right now in the world. So if you want to plug away your channels one more time, and then
sure. I believe on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, it's like at Mr. Hijinks, MisterHyjinx, and on Twitter it's at Tonoccus McClain, and I'm and I've got a couple Christmas concerts after all that talk.
Yes, tell us.
I'm gonna be. I know, really. We're doing a Christmas tour. I mean, who knows? I just say yes. I'm a freelance musician. The Sounds of Christmas. We're gonna be in Santa Barbara on Sunday. The next Sunday we'll be in Thousand Oaks, and the next Sunday we'll be in San Diego. So Sounds of Christmas. There are tons of tickets, and I've got solos and stuff. And so
that's beautiful, man. I love it. We need to. I'll need to have you back on, and we just talk about actual music, because we have that in common, and we didn't even talk
about it. Wow, amazing.
Yeah. No,
I'm down. I'm grateful.
Absolutely. Tonoccus, appreciate you. Everyone, follow me, subscribe, Fumble Podcast. Again, I'll be on Hype Radio with Defunk the Legend this Friday. I have a comedy show, Thursday Night Thunder, on December 8th. December 9th is my birthday, 37. Give me some love. And then Also, I wanted to finish with this. Information is power. Approach everything the right way, not the easy way. I'm not preaching. I'm just saying, do the research yourself. You will undoubtedly, you guys probably already discovered this. I'm not saying anything new. The bottom line is we're all human beings, and everything else is taught after that. Just
Amen.
Use your inner child to make decisions, because I promise you it'll save this world. Woman, life, freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Free Ukraine, free Iran, free China, free Russia, free all oppressed countries. We're
democracy.
Democracy, true democracy. I love you guys. Borders are fake. Humanity's real. I will catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks, brother.